So there is a transformative function that he's talking about. In the Suzuki Roshi lineage that I was trained in, we sometimes talk about, Suzuki Roshi talked about non-gaining attitude. And some people think that means you're not supposed to get anything. And that's bad if that happens, or that there's no, that Zazen practice is meaningless or doesn't have any real purpose. And clearly that's not what Dogen's talking about. There is a transformative function. But it's not something based on our ideas of what enlightenment is, or ideas of what spiritual reality is. It's beyond, it's deeper than that. We do not try to get something specific from this practice, because if we have some outcome we want to get, that's just consumer zen, just trying to acquire some goodies. But our practice is not meaningless or purposeless. So there is a transformation that happens through doing this practice. I've seen it, in my life and in many people I've practiced with, that doing this Zazen practice that Dogen recommends, this practice of just sitting or sitting upright, this dignified manner. I may have hit something on this laptop. Anyway, there is something that happens by taking on the practice of just being willing to fully experience this vital process. Something happens. There is some transformation. I would say, as a basic Buddhist principle, awareness itself is transformative. That when we pay attention to something, it changes what it is. When we pay attention to our own life and our own habits, and yogically, physically, study the self, as Dogen says, experience the realities of our own life and our own awareness and our own patterns of greed, hate, and delusion. That awareness changes it. This isn't just Buddhism. This is modern physics, where they've discovered that if you study if you observe a phenomenon, it changes the phenomenon, even on the subatomic level. So this awareness is transformative, and I think that's what Dogen is talking about. Again, there's a lot in this essay. I want to go to a few other parts. He has a teaching about letting go. The excerpt from Gyokutsu Igi, he says, "This is to abandon your body for Dharma, to abandon Dharma for your body. This is to give up holding back your life and to hold on fully to your life. The awesome presence, or dignified manner, not only lets go of Dharma for the sake of Dharma, but also lets go of Dharma for the sake of mind." Then he says, "Do not forget that this letting go is immeasurable." So this idea of letting go, connecting up with not holding, with giving up holding back from your life, I think is very, well, it's in some ways it's stern in the way Dogen can be. In some ways it's very comforting, I think. But this letting go, in Fukan Zazengi, he says not thinking or beyond thinking is the essential art of Zazen. I would say that letting go is the essential art of Zazen. Here he says letting go is immeasurable. And letting go is subtle. It's not getting rid of. So thoughts and feelings arise naturally as you're sitting upright or walking or in your life. It's not about getting rid of thoughts. But letting go, and then in the next moment they may come again. But this art of letting go is a kind of craft of Zazen, and something that Dogen is encouraging here. I would say this is letting go of holding back from your life. We have so many reasons and encouragements to hold back, to get distracted by all the sophisticated entertainments that our culture provides, to retreat from living our life. Dogen says, give up holding back your life so as to hold on fully to your life. So this sense of holding back from this awesome presence, which is available. There is this presence and this vital process that we can get a taste of when we are willing to take on this practice. Dogen says about this, let it go a little further, who would regard this apparition of blossoms in the sky, which is again, another reference, maybe it should be in quotes, but there's a whole essay called Blossoms in the Sky. But who would regard this apparition of blossoms in the sky as taking up a mistake and settling in with a mistake? Stepping forward misses, stepping backward misses, taking one step misses, taking two steps misses. So there are mistakes upon mistakes, Dogen says. This is not about this fully experiencing the vital process. Is not about getting it right. What Dogen's practice is not something that one needs to learn to do perfectly or impeccably. That's not what he's talking about. It's simply mistake upon mistake. We're actually alive in this vital process. So to give yourself, to not hold back, to let go of all the things that get in the way of our being willing to be the person we are, upright, engaged in a vital process on a path of going beyond Buddha, of not being caught by any idea we have of Buddha. So what is Buddha? There's innumerable answers to that in the koan literature, but to not hold back and to let go from mistakes, from, and as Griff was talking about also in terms of koans, anything you say is a mistake. But not saying anything is also a mistake. How do you take on this kind of active process? That's what Dogen is talking about here. He goes on to say, totally encompassed by Buddhas, active Buddhas are free from obstruction as they penetrate the vital path of being splattered by mud and soaked in water. So maybe that means going into the swamp here at the Everglades. Anyway, being splattered by mud and soaked in water.
It's a koan quote.
Aha. Where's it from?
I forget. I have it on my computer. But if you don't know where it's from and you don't know the context, it's hard to make sense of it there.
Okay.
It might be actually, this one might be from the Lotus Sutra.
I think it's from, I think there's something,
Yeah.
I think there's a phrase in the Blue Book record which may also go back to the Lotus
Yeah.
Sutra.
Anyway.
But yeah, that's
but
part
it's
of
another one of these things where,
yeah.
you know.
Yeah. So and yet even not knowing what the context of the original use of the quote
It makes
was,
sense.
it's rich, I would say. And part of what it's pointing to is that this practice is not something that happens in some beautiful, ethereal, heavenly mountaintop realm. We have that idea that Buddha's up on some mountain somewhere. Right in the middle of the mud and water, we practice dignified presence and engage the transformative function. So in terms of bringing Dogen down to earth, where you are in the mistakes you're involved in this week, that's where it happens. It's not about it's being splattered by mud and soaked in water. Maybe just a couple other of these sections I'll mention, and then we could have some discussion. We've been talking somewhat about understanding and knowledge, and what is knowing and what is faith. There's a phrase later in this essay where Dogen says, thoroughly practicing, thoroughly clarifying, it is not forced. It is just like recognizing the shadow of deluded thought and turning the light to shine within. That's also a reference to a basic meditation instruction, to turn the light to shine within. Then he says the clarity beyond clarity prevails in the activity of Buddhas. This is totally surrendering to practice. So this phrase, the clarity of clarity beyond clarity. Clarity here has something to do with faith. It's a character myo. It could be translated as understanding. It also could be translated as brightness. So it's the brilliance of your brilliance beyond brilliance, the understanding that goes beyond anything we can understand. So right now in this room, many things are happening. And we can't possibly see or understand all of them. complexity of any situation is beyond our human intellectual capacities. That doesn't mean we shouldn't try to understand or use our intellectual capacities, but just to know that the clarity of clarity beyond clarity prevails in the activity of Buddhas. How do we know anything? And this also relates to faith. How do we trust, rather than the English word faith, I would use the word trust. How do we trust the next breath? How do we trust the next step? How do we trust the next mistake? All of these are, to me, implied in what Dogen is saying, this understanding beyond understanding. So this is not just some ancient Eastern inscrutable mystical philosophy. As I was saying, according to modern physics and string theory, there are dimensions of reality happening all around us of which we are not aware. How do we know? Well, I can reach in my pocket and I can feel the difference between the coins and the pens without looking at them. I can see that with my fingers. How do we know whatever it is we know? And so I think this vital process on the path of going beyond Buddha is about knowing things in ways beyond how we usually think about knowing things. So there's one place where he says something about, he says, to understand the principle of total surrendering, you should thoroughly investigate mind. In the steadfastness of thorough investigation, all phenomena are the unadorned clarity of mind. And there's I think it may be a different essay where he talks about clarity and control. Maybe it's in Shobogenzo Henzon where he talks about we don't even control whether or not we control things. So nothing ever happens that we're totally in control of. That doesn't mean we can't actually engage it and express it. But nothing ever happens according to our expectations or ideas of some outcome. This is not the event that I could have imagined, because it's the actual event with each one of you in the room now. So again, this clarity of clarity beyond clarity, I think, is an interesting notion to chew on. The last piece of what he says in this, there are many other sections of this, but I'll talk about another section where he talks about, you know and understand that the three realms of desire, form, and formlessness, a standard Buddhist construct, the three worlds, are merely elaborate divisions of mind. Although your knowing and understanding are part of all phenomena, so it's okay if you have some knowledge or understanding. Although your knowing and understanding are part of all phenomena, you actualize the home village of the self. And that's a phrase that I really like. It's not that you should get rid of your understanding, intellectual knowledge, but what is this home village of the self?